Good morning, friends. Done is what had to be done. House builder, you will build this house no more. Your roof beam is broken, and this conceit of self can no more be reconstructed. It's the words of the Buddha at the moment of dawn, on the morning after the night of awakening. Done is what had to be done. All these years, all these lifetimes of roaming round in an attempt to get some kind of self-security, trying to feel like someone, trying to be someone, trying to convince others that one is someone, trying to attain a reliable enough or comfortable enough or happy enough or secure enough sense of self to truly relax. Doesn't work. We're trying to build the house of self again and again and again, and never feeling quite right. House builder, you'll build this house no more. The ridgepole is broken, and that somehow that seeing through of the attempts at self-existence, self-reliance, self-centeredness, self-identity. The fundamental, that ridgepole, right, the main beam, the fundamental strength of that, reliance on that, it's gone. It's gone. Ideas of self might arise. The sense of self can appear in so many different ways. But the fundamental conceit of actually believing this is who I am, gone. And then, in that goneness, the Buddha looks around and sees the world. The world of early morning. The world of natural unfolding. The world like this. Like this. World in all its suchness. The world that is Dhammata. Like this. Like this. So this is the morning after awakening, and we've been speaking about all that all this week. We kind of celebrated Wesak here last night at the Mulan. It was rather beautiful. A dear friend from Bhutan had sent me some new prayer flags for Sakadawa, which is Tibetan or Bhutanese word for Wesak. And they got those things. They got lost, then they got delayed, then they got caught up in customs. He sent them to me. He said he would send them in February, and then they arrived the day of Wesak, or day before Wesak. Oh, very auspicious. And the previous prayer flags here were very, very worn and tattered from endlessly sending their blessings out to the winds of all directions, to the hearts of all beings. And so we took down the flagpole with the old prayer flags and replaced them with these new ones and stood that up. Beautiful. Then we reflected together on awakeness. Always interesting to do late at night when one's starting to fall asleep. And then we did this beautiful walk around the perimeter of the Mulan, just taking in the full moon and the land and the relationship to it, and the sense of calling on the celestial forces and guardian spirits of this place to both bless us with their presence and to receive the blessings of our practice. And however one might understand that, or maybe that whole thing sounds a little far out and superstitious or whatever, it sort of doesn't matter. It's not about whether one believes in guardian spirits of a piece of land or not. It doesn't matter whether you believe in them or not. What matters in this case is, what if you were to walk around opening your heart as if your practice, your heart, your goodwill, your intentions were being received by countless celestial forces and guardian spirits? What if you were to walk around as if that was the case, with no regard for whether it's true or not? That's how I relate to a lot of that sort of stuff. The kind of more cosmic dimensions, the manifold realms, the idea of many planes of existence, the sense of ancestors and all. What a shame to get caught in something so small as whether that's true or not. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. So what is true is that relating to the universe as if it's large and multidimensional and profoundly mysterious, and as if it's a field that can both bless us and receive our blessings, that does something very beautiful to the heart. It does something very beautiful to our sensitivity, to the way we relate to things, the way we move around a piece of land, the way we incline towards a sense maybe of prayer, the way we cultivate goodwill or benevolence or metta, kindness, and offer it out to others. So I'm a big fan of as if, relating to everything as if everything is sacred, And I think I'm going to teach a day of practice on that sometime later this year. So, morning of awakening. Done is what had to be done. The world looks freer and more fluid when it's been liberated from the anxious, neurotic, self-referential attempts to be someone. And it looks like that to the Buddha. And then he's instructively, he stays in that place for the next 7 weeks, just contemplating that freeness of being, contemplating liberation from narrow self-existence. And what's come down to us through the tradition as a sort of result of that night, is Buddhism in a way, or the many different Buddhisms, or more accurately actually what's come down to us is Buddha Dharma, the Dharma of Buddha, the Dharma of awakening. And what's most traditional in all the different Buddhist traditions in reflecting on the night of awakening and on orientating to the Buddha's Dhamma as a path of practice is the sense of the Tisarana, the 3 refuges. So I thought we might chant them as we sit in meditation together. So the Tisarana, the 3 refuges are Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha. And we can understand that in a sort of traditional way or Buddhist way, the Buddha, the Dhamma, the Sangha. But let's see it in the most immediate way, most profound way maybe. What's Buddha? It means awake. What does it mean? And what's refuge? A refuge means a safe place, a shelter from the storm. What's a true refuge? What's a way to really shelter from the storms of inner drama, mental, emotional noise and agitation? Well, first of those true refuges is Buddha. The fact that rather than being pulled around by what's happening and why it's happening and what could be happening and what should be happening, just can we be awake in the midst of it all? More important than me and my wishes, me and my preferences, me and my expectations, me and my hopes, me and my problems. Oh my goodness. In the midst of all of that self-centeredness, there just is awakeness. You're awake. You're awake. We're awake. Can I take refuge in this awakeness? Can I recognize this awakeness? Can I rest into this awakeness? That's the true refuge in Buddha. Yes, historical figure, yes, the principle of awakening, but most essentially, awakeness right now, Buddha right now. And then Dhamma. Oh, yes, Dhamma, the teachings, yes, Dhamma, a path of practice, but essentially Dhamma means the nature of things. What's the Dhamma of this moment? Oh, it's like this. Rather than how it could be and should be, can we actually find a refuge, a rest, a relief in orientating to the fact that right now, it's like this. It's like this. How I wish it was, how I think it should be, might be important, but it's definitely secondary to realizing that it's like this, to acknowledging that it's like this, to being in the heart of the like-thisness. Dhamma sarana gacchami. And then Sangha as a refuge. Yes, the Sangha of community, beautiful, important. Look how helpful, how supportive it is to sit here in the mornings with a whole bunch of other people. Imagine if you just logged on and you were the only one here, right? It wouldn't work so well. No, contact, community, support, mutuality. And most essentially, whether we're in this kind of situation or not, is that recognition that we're always in the Sangha of all beings. Our lives are profoundly entwined with all other lives, with all of life. All beings everywhere are our Sangha. We have that sense. Self-centeredness makes us feel as if we somehow live apart from life. There's the world, and then there's me. But no, there isn't. You can't separate yourself out from life. One's self-referential thinking, right, can give the impression of being separated out from life. But do we look a little closer, we sense a little closer? Oh no. This breath, right, the in and the out of this breath. What I call my breath. Is this my breath? It belongs to everything. My breath belongs to trees as much as it belongs to me. It belongs to the space around me. Just that. I mean, just the in and out of breath is enough to collapse the sense of our separateness. On the night of the Buddha's awakening, after he's dealt with discomfort, maybe you've heard me tell this story elsewhere, I won't tell it now, but it's a very beautiful aspect of the story, you know, how Mara first comes and kind of fires arrows at the Buddha. Sounds a bit extreme, but what that really is a poetic way of saying, you know, the Buddha's sitting there, and his legs hurt. That's what Mara's arrows, ow, she's been sitting there for some hours with stiff legs. And yet, those arrows turn into flowers. As the Buddha, relax around the discomfort. And maybe you've had that experience that sometimes discomfort can actually change to bliss when we suddenly stop struggling and just drop it. And then Amaro sends his daughters to dance naked in front of the Buddha. And maybe we've had that experience, right? You're trying to meditate, but you get caught up in some kind of sexual fantasy. Any other kind of fantasy carries you away. So there's these various sort of seeming distractions or possible distractions, and the Buddha stays steady. But then he gets caught in a great moment of self-doubt. When Mara himself approaches the Buddha and says, "What do you think you're doing? Who do you think you are? What makes you think you can understand anything?" Does that sound familiar? You know, that voice of self-doubt, self-criticism, self-judgment. And in that moment, the Buddha calls on that sense of support of the Sangha of all beings. He doesn't try and call on himself. No, he's under attack from his own superego, his own inner critic, Mara. So he reaches down and he touches the earth. And you can see that in many, many, many Buddhist statues, including the one behind me here. Right? His hand is down, he's touching the earth. It's like, oh, realizing he doesn't have to rely on just his own self-motivation. He can rely on earth and sky, frogs, sunlight. Oh yeah, everything's here. There's a deep, wide, full, boundless context of support. And actually the fact that we're here is the proof of that support. Look, life is supporting you so much that it's animating your body and mind and heart. Oh, it's breathing you. That's a profound refuge. To recognize and to rest into the fact that there is support. How easily we focus on what's wrong, what's missing, what's not there for me. But meanwhile, life is here for you in a very, very vast and substantial way. So friends, I'm sorry I've spoken for rather long, but there we go. So it's a big day in the Buddhist calendar. So let's chant the refuges together and then we'll sit in meditation. Thank you, George. I'm going to... as George has put the words there, we can just chant them all together, right? And that funny symbol that is an sound. So, let's just chant them. And then you don't need to worry about the introductory phrase that just says, hey, let's chant the refuges. And we can just go through together, Buddhang, Saranang, and then Dhammang, Sanghang, and then Dutiyampi a second time, Tatiyampi a third time. May we find true refuge, deep refuge, liberating refuge, right here where we are, which is Buddha, right here in the way things are, which is Dhamma, right here in the midst of our intimacy with all of life, which is Sangha. Andamayang ti sarana gamana padang panamase Bodhang saranang gacchami Dhammang saranang gacchami Sanghang saranang gacchami Dutiyampi Buddhang saranang gacchami Dutiyampi Dhammang saranang gacchami Dutiyampi Sanghang saranang gacchami Tatiyampi Buddhang saranang gacchami Tatiyampi Dhammang saranang gacchami Tatiyampi Sanghang saranang gacchami. Take your seat. This moment, this seat. Your seat is right here. And right here is a boundless realm. Right here in your room. Right here on the earth. right here with everyone else, right here in the company of all beings, right here beneath the Bodhi tree. Right here in the fundamental awakeness of mind. The awakeness that hears these words, the awakeness that feels the sitting, this awakeness which is Buddha, Buddha, Buddha. Rest into natural awakeness. Relax into being here. If your attention is vague or restless, let breathing be your guide, your support. The naturalness of breathing, the tide of breathing. In-breath, out-breath. Each inviting you to be here a little more fully. A little more fluidly. A little more freely. like this, with everything. Awake, Buddha, like this, Dhamma, with everything, Sangha. And that sense then of refuge. Take refuge in the fact, the immediacy of your awakeness right now. Take refuge in really meeting, feeling, allowing the way things are. The way breath is just like this, the way sounds are just like this, the way everything is just like this. Dissolving the friction we create. The dissatisfaction we manufacture. Take refuge in Sangha, sensing the way that your presence here is woven into the fabric of all existence. The intimacy with sounds and sensations. The interbeing with everything. Where is the Buddha now? Don't look to history, don't look to abstraction, don't look to imagery. Look for the awakeness that's hearing these words, the awakeness that's revealing experience. The awakeness that is ungraspable, indefinable, incomprehensible, which is right here, making all experience possible moment by moment. Could this mind be anything other than awake? Buddha from the beginning. Seemingly covered over by our desires and dramas and doubts. And yet even like the clouds seem to cover over the sun. The sky is always fundamentally wide open, boundless, bright, free. Just like this. May all beings know the awakeness that is Buddha from the beginning. May all beings find peace in the Dharma of the way things are. And may all beings know our profound intimacy with everything and everyone, so that we actually take care of the Sangha of all beings which live in our own hearts. got little eye. In French you say, on a des petits yeux. After a night without much sleep. Oh, you've got little eyes. I feel like I've got little eyes this morning. Oh. Nevertheless, here we are. It's interesting, you know, and maybe you set up some of the night in meditation, or maybe you just didn't sleep very well, because often at the full moon there's a kind of intensity that makes one reluctantly awake sometimes. But it's interesting when one feels dull, sleepy, tired, exhausted even. To recognise that even in the midst of sleepiness, how do I know that I'm sleepy? Because mind is awake by its nature. It's awakeness that knows sleepiness, ironically. And so, strangely, this sense of dullness or sleepiness or heaviness can actually be that which reveals the fundamental, the kind of background luminosity against which all our experience actually is seen. All right. So, friends, here we are. There's a few minutes. If anybody has anything they'd like to explore, ask, etc. As it's the end of the week, I will bang the dana drum and remind you that, this is really, there's a great mutuality here of support, and that Sangha Life can only function because of this mutuality. So, everyone who teaches here show up really wishing to support you the best we can, trying to support you the best we can. Sangha Live, all the programming, all the tech stuff, everything is orientated to trying to support you the best we can. And so then the invitation is, please support us the best you can. And that's what dana is. It's mutual support, mutual generosity. So whatever way you are able to support us, and it may be that your support feels very, very modest. Oh, circumstances are difficult, I can only offer a few euros. Oh, beautiful. If a few euros sincerely given is true dana. It may be that your situation is such that, I could offer a bit more, and it's good what happens here, and I'd like to be a part of making this available to as many people as want to show up and practice here. Which of course is, many hundreds every day. There's a couple of hundred people here right now. Oh, beautiful. And if your financial situation is complicated, difficult, strained, and you don't feel like you're able to offer anything, please, that's fine. If your situation is really difficult, then please just receive the dana. It's often important as well. Some of us might think, oh yes, I should give. Well, it's not that you should give. You might feel moved to give, and you might be able to give. Wonderful. In which case, if you are moved to give, right, and you are able to give, yes, give, please. But if you're not able to give for whatever reason, then your practice can be receiving. Oh yeah, that's good. I'm so grateful. This is such a good support. Great. Drink it in, drink it in. There'll be plenty of other situations in the day where you are able to give. Maybe just to give a little time, a little care, a little listening. So we have to see what our resources are. And if part of your resources is being able to give to support me this week and Sangha Live and everybody that's therefore able to practice here, thank you, thank you, thank you. Your support is most appreciated, most necessary, and most beautiful. And right on cue, George can put the link in. There it is. Look at that. George and we're totally in sync. There's the link for offering dana. Thank you. Ellie asks, thank you. Can you say more about the difference between seeking safety and seeking refuge? Because refuge sounds to me like safety, calm. Yeah. So the question really is, what is true refuge? What is true safety? And there's actually a line. There's a line in Pali. There's a chant called the verses of what is it? True and excellent refuge. And then in that chant, it talks about all the kind of the wrong places, or the unreliable places, not wrong, but the unreliable places we seek safety. So we tend to seek safety in, most essentially, if you look, we might seek safety in other people, we might seek safety in material comforts, etc. But most essentially, underneath all of that, we're trying to seek safety in itself, trying to feel okay about myself, trying to feel secure in myself. And of course there is a way, psychologically, we can become less neurotic and more confident, more kind of okay with ourselves. But fundamentally, we never get to the place of feeling completely okay about ourselves, because the sense of self is so unreliable. It changes all the time, and it's sort of a hallucination in some ways. So then what's true refuge? Well, the suggestion is true refuge is Buddha Dhamma Sangha, right? Not in a cultural or historic way, but true refuge is, what's really safe is awakeness. I mean, awakeness is really, it's a true refuge, because it's always here, and it shows us what's going on. Dhamma, the fact that it's like this, it's always true. Reality is always exactly like this, like it is. Whereas it's not always exactly in conformity with my wishes and my preference. That's not a safe refuge. Trying to make the world just as I like it, that's not a reliable refuge. The world will refuse to conform to my wishes and preferences. But the world will never refuse to be exactly the way it is right now, etc. So that's a little bit, you can certainly substitute safety for the word refuge, right? And then the question becomes, or the reflection is, to see what is true refuge, as opposed to where we go looking for refuge. I often say the triple gem, the three refuges of contemporary life, are the fridge, the TV, and the bar. That's where we go for refuge. It's like, I feel a bit insecure. I go to the fridge, open the fridge. Is there some refuge in here? Is there something that's going to make me feel better? Or we just feel kind of, sort of uneasy in ourselves. I go to the TV. It's the TV. Take refuge in the TV. Most of our refuges are forms of trying to go unconscious in some way. Go to the bar, have a few drinks, take refuge in sort of, the receding of clarity, and etc. So, in those verses in Pali, they go, many people seek refuge in forests and in shrines, etc., etc. Those are not true refuges, etc. So I think, a contemporary thing is, many of us seek refuge in the fridge. In other words, in trying to fill the hole of our insecurity, or we seek refuge in the TV. And nothing wrong with going to the fridge, nothing wrong with watching TV. It's just to see, what am I expecting from the TV? Am I expecting refuge? Am I expecting something that it can't give? Am I restlessly going around in my life looking for something to make me feel okay about myself? Because I would say you ain't never going to find it. But ironically, when we give up the search, we allow ourselves to be awake where we are, awake to how things are, and we recognise our deep intimacy with all of things, then we're always all right where we are. We're always all right how we are. Because it's not me that I'm looking to for solace. My solace is in awakeness, in the way things are, and in this kind of sense that my life is fundamentally of a piece with all of life. Then we feel deeply all right about how we are, without being concerned about who and how we are. Voila, voila, voila. What else? What to do when anxiety increases while sitting, even though you let it just be there for a long period. If it increases while sitting, a few things. Try any one of these. One, focus on the out-breath. Just keep allowing the gentleness of the out-breath, the relaxation of the out-breath. And if your out-breath feels a little tight, just take a couple of big sighs and then come back. Just out-breath, out-breath, out-breath. Also try opening your eyes, looking around you. Oh yeah, there's not just your anxious thought loops, there's a whole world here. Oh, frogs, space. Oh. And actively try turning your attention to something that feels nice, basically, or that feels beautiful, or that feels easy. What's a source of ease? Like, oh, in here I feel all anxious, and here I feel all anxious. So where don't I feel? Oh, maybe my hands. Maybe can I let myself just feel the way my hands can be at rest on my lap? There's a quality of ease there. Not thinking about that, but actually gently, gently taking your attention into that element of experience that has a quality of ease to it. So those are 3 different suggestions. You can experiment with them. Yeah. Right. Out breath. Bigger context than just your own anxious loops, and attention going to something that feels easeful and relieving. Finn asks, did the Buddha teach before he was awakened? No. No. And he was reluctant to teach even post-awakening. So he's night of awakening, then 7 weeks digesting the experience, sort of being on retreat, sitting and walking up and down and practicing, but really just digesting the implications of this new liberated vision, free of life, free relationship with life. And then he thought, what's the point of trying to teach anything? This is subtle, no one's going to understand this. He'd been himself, 6 years practicing and not understanding. And so he was initially reluctant, and then had the sense, no, actually there are some people that will have sensitivity. And he remembered the 5 companions whom he'd spent some time with living in the forest and practicing. And he knew where they were staying, which was in Sarnath, right, just outside Varanasi, what's now Varanasi. And so that was about 350 kilometers from where he was. So he decided, I'm going to walk over and see those guys, and So he set off to go and see his old companions, and on the way reflecting on how he might present what he'd understood. And it's that the basic teachings of the 4 Noble Truths and the threefold training, the Eightfold Path. Some of the things we've been exploring in my course on Sangha Live that's running at the moment. It's how that first conception, and I think that's really part of Buddha's genius, is that he somehow had this capacity to explain things really very well, to organise things. He was explaining something that's ungraspable, that's incomprehensible. So it's like a doomed activity. Trying to teach Dharma is a doomed activity. It's a constant failure to express something that's fundamentally inexpressible. Oh, what a thankless task. And yet that's somehow where the aliveness or the authenticity and the creativity of teaching comes from. How can I try? I'm going to fail, definitely, but how can I try, nevertheless, to express the inexpressible? And because Buddha was somehow very, very good at expressing the inexpressible, therefore his teachings have lasted and kind of grown and developed and flowed like that. And because one's trying to express the inexpressible, the sense is in the tradition generally, you shouldn't teach before there's sufficient real orientation, real clarity, real depth of awakeness, that one can somehow not fail too badly. Because if we don't know what we're talking about, if we don't really know that to which we're pointing, we will end up distorting it in some way. And so the sense of lineage and of authorization for teaching in the Buddhist tradition is like that. You don't decide to teach, you don't apply to teach, you don't take a course in teaching. No, you're recognized in the lineage and you're kind of invited into that. The idea is that that teaching lineage is a lineage of awakening. Yeah. Alright, Kaz asks, last question, is luminosity a visual or an emotional sense? Very good. Or some other way of experiencing? I'm always puzzled by this. It's none of those, but it can be experienced as either or as various other features. So and luminosity is not a precise term. It's exactly what I was just saying. It's saying the mind is luminous is a way of failing to express the inexpressible. So, but there's certain fundamental ways that the free nature of consciousness can show up. None of them are exactly accurate, but they can show up in terms of we might say the fundamental spaciousness, or the fundamental luminosity, or the fundamental here-ness, right? Fundamental immediacy. So we may experience that sense of luminosity of mind in a kind of visual way. Oh yeah, awareness is so bright, so luminous, that it's bright enough to illuminate whatever appears in it. But maybe the emotional sense might be just say, there's a kind of brilliance. Awareness has a brilliance to it, such that it immediately meets, immediately understands, immediately receives whatever appears. Right? So most essentially, what I was calling the fundamental luminosity of mind is not visual nor emotional, and most of all, it's not objectifiable. You can't see it because it's that which is doing the seeing. It'd be like trying to look for your eyes. Right? But you don't need to see your eyes. Your seeing is the evidence that you have eyes. Experience is the evidence of the brilliance or luminosity of awareness. Yeah. All right, friends. We will stop there. I'm very appreciative of the goodness of your presence and your practice this week. I've been very delighted to see how much you've kind of responded to this, more Buddhist than usual kind of reflections on Wesak and the significance of it, and ways in which we've been sort of teasing out how we can make that, very much about our own practice, etc. So thank you for your support for Sangha Live this week and for me. Thank you for the many, many kindnesses you express to each other in the chat, and sometimes people going through difficult moments, and all the goodwill that you will bring forth. Please forgive me if you've written something that I haven't noticed in the churn of the chat feed, etc. And thank you to George for just being there in the background and making things work and helping out with so many things. Thank you to the whole Sangha Live team that work hard and skillfully in the background. Thank you to the frogs for keeping us company. Thank you to all beings for being part of the infinite theatre of our life support system. Buddha, Dharma, Sangha, awake, like this, in the midst of everything. Imaho, marvellous. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Please go wakefully through the day. Oh, and next week, come along next week. Who's here? I think it's Nirmala. I think Nirmala will be leading the daily meditations next week. Nirmala is a friend and a student, and I've known her a long time, and she's great, deep, beautiful, dedicated practitioner, skillful teacher, a lot of heart. So, come along and sit with her next week. All right. Thank you.